Errol Spence Jr. speaks out about his next fight. Rumors swirl about his next fight. And we are going to address both of those and talk about both of those things in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. We are going to be in the 154-pound division, where Errol Spence Jr. took to Twitter yesterday to respond to a suggestion for his next fight. Also, there's people out in the YouTube world reporting that Errol Spence Jr. actually has his next fight lined up. And it could be against a reigning 154-pound champion that, not coincidentally, Terence Crawford is trying to line himself up to fight as well. Now, before I get into that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you very much. It really means a lot to the channel. And thank you to everybody that supports, and the super thanks, and everybody that comes by the live streams that we do every day. We will be covering these things in the live stream as well. So if you have something you'd like to say to me directly, you can always click the link on YouTube. And actually, there'll be a link in Twitter where you can click that link and chop it up with me there as well if you feel like it. But let's get into this, because Champside Boxing, shout out to Champside. It is a YouTube channel that you should definitely subscribe to. Does very good work. Interviews fighters, goes to fighters. Just a top-notch, high quality YouTube channel all the way around. Made a suggestion on Twitter that now that Keith Thurman was not going to fight Tim Tszyu due to an arm injury, that the next fight for Errol Spence Jr. could be a good comeback fight, and I want to make sure I get this so people understand this. He did not say that Errol Spence will be fighting Keith Thurman, but it would be a good comeback fight for him. And Errol Spence Jr. responded to that tweet with the same answer that he's given for a long time, which is nah. As in, he's not going to be fighting Keith Thurman. Still, to me, unfortunate, because I would love to see those two guys get in the ring. And it's one of these fights that are probably never going to happen, or I'm almost going to guarantee you it's never going to happen. And it's just a big shame that it never did take place, because both of these guys were very, very excellent fighters, are excellent fighters from all I know right now. And we're just never going to see him, never get to see him chop it up in the ring. And both of these guys have suffered injuries throughout their career. But fortunately for both of these guys, they've also had a lot of championship fights, and they've also made a lot of money. So, no crying over spilled milk for either one of them, but would still love to have seen the fight. Now, more germane to what's going on in the boxing world is the discussion about what Errol Spence will do next. And there are people that are reporting, and I think really just speculating. And I don't have a problem with speculating. Just say you're speculating, and don't say that it's a fact. Just I'm speculating, and things like this seems like to be the most likely scenario, where Errol Spence Jr. would return for the WBC, a championship shot at the WBC belt at 154, where Tim Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora will be fighting one another in a unification fight between the WBO belt and the WBC belt. And Errol is in position to get that fight, because either one of those guys would definitely fight him. In fact, Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s CEO of his promotional company made a statement on Twitter about Tim Tszyu and how Tim Tszyu was looking forward to Spence Crawford, right? And he said Spence Crawford. instead of focusing on Sebastian Fundora. And Sebastian Fundora, and he's saying that because obviously Sebastian Fundora can mess around and upset the apple cart, especially coming off this type of late notice for Tim Tszyu if his mind is not 100% locked in. Tim Tszyu, of course, is going to try to get taller sparring partners, and at least that's what I heard. He said he was going to pull in taller sparring partners. Only problem with that is that this is that fight's 10 days away, and I don't think that you should be sparring, right? If you're not sparring, if you spar 10 days before the fight, you got a substantial chance of getting injured and having that, fights called off completely in the 12th hour. But whatever the case is, that statement by Leonard Ellerbe hints at the possibility that Tim Tszyu, if he wins this fight with Sebastian Fundora, could fight either Errol Spence Jr. or Terence Crawford. Now, my thing is, we know why Terence Crawford is in the picture, because the WBO forced him in the picture by saying you have 5 days. The winner of Sebastian Fundora versus Tim Tszyu has 5 days only 5 days. In 5 days, they have to start negotiation with the WBO mandatory, who is Terence Crawford. That is the WBO sticking their hand in the middle of that scenario and trying to lean it towards Terence Crawford. Only problem here is that you have a scenario where you have the WBC and you have Errol Spence, and Errol Spence Jr. Is probably a more desirable fight for the PBC with Tim Tszyu or Sebastian Fundora because it's an in-house fight, and it's an in-house fight with a guy that just is a bigger name than Terence Crawford is, and is more lucrative fight, more than likely a more lucrative fight for either one of those guys, and definitely more lucrative for the PBC. So what is the most likely scenario? The most likely scenario is that the most likely scenario for me is that Errol and Terence Crawford still rematch. I believe that they've just taken that whole conversation underground, and at least, I suspect, not that I believe. I suspect that they've just taken the conversation underground, and eventually they're going to pop up with the fight that they're going to make, and that what Terence is doing and has been doing is trying to get himself other options to allow him to have more room at the negotiation table, because the rematch clause seemingly has expired. And for people to say that means Terence Crawford doesn't have to fight. That's right. If it is true that the rematch clause has expired, that does mean that Terence Crawford doesn't have to fight him. It also means that any type of terms that those guys agreed to in that original contract is now gone. So the requirement for them to give Terence Crawford that payday is gone. And if Terence wants a payday, you got to renegotiate from ground zero. Yeah. And if you don't have a lot of options, what you going to do when the rabbit got the gun, right? They got all the options over here at the PBC. You don't have a lot of options over there. The WBO is not going to be able to force the PBC to do something they don't want to do and pay for a fight that they don't want to put on, which then means you got to go to purse bid. And if you go to purse bid, boom, the money comes down. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. We'll see how it plays out. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.